Today we have with us Michaela Downing, who's a graduate of the Masters in Digestion Program, and she's also a chef on a private yacht. She's a health coach for the last 4 years as well. Michaela, it's a fascinating position being a chef on a private yacht. How did you come to that profession?
Oh, I stumbled across that. That was a little over 11 years ago. I started in the industry. I'm from Canada, and I always had a little bit of a bug for traveling. So that's pretty much what got me started in the industry. I flew down to Fort Lauderdale, and 11 years later, I'm married and live here.
Have you seen lots of different places as a result of your profession?
Yes, definitely. A lot of, the U.S. as well, like East Coast and such, but lots of the Caribbean and Bahamas, and been to Italy and across the big pond. So yeah, quite a bit of traveling.
Great, fascinating. How did you get interested in Ayurveda?
Well, it's funny because you would think that I would have been interested because it's, related around food, but it was actually my practice of yoga where I kind of learned more about it. And as you know, it's kind of, they complement each other.
Mm-hmm.
So I got interested in it that way. And then I purchased a couple of Ayurvedic cookbooks, and that's where it all began.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah. So my interest in Ayurveda came through cooking, actually. I didn't actually hear about it through yoga. I heard about it through my teacher who was an herbalist. I was studying herbalism at the time, and I thoroughly rejected it because being a kind of chef or foodie, I didn't want any kind of restrictions on what I thought was the way I expressed myself artistically. Now, was that the case for you too? Were you wary of Ayurveda when you first found it, or no?
No, well, I mean, the yachting industry is all about anything and everything that you want. So it's, I mean, I don't have budgets. I don't work with any. I just do whatever I want to do. So yeah, in a huge way, it seemed like, wow, this is very limiting. But I also started to become more practiced in other diets like gluten-free and such. So, I realized it was limiting in some ways, but that's actually only limiting to what you're willing to try. I think it's delicious. I think it's really good food, clean food.
Yeah, well, my experience was certainly that Ayurveda improved my creativity in the kitchen because it gave me a new perspective to design recipes. Whereas before, I didn't have a thorough way to go through the process of recipe creation. I would start with a recipe and kind of just try to imagine what would taste good together, but there was no process. And I was always envious of other art forms, like painters, for example. They have a whole science of composition of paintings, and you take a course, or an architect has this way of composing a building, or a songwriter, and those things are really studied. But as chefs, we don't often have this paradigm for asking the question, what's the composition of my recipe? How, what are the bones of the recipe, so to speak? And Ayurveda gives us some of those bones and gives us some way to be creative. So tell me how did you hear about Masters in Digestion?
Well, I actually didn't hear about it. I was kind of Googling, and I actually really liked the Joyful Belly website. So I had signed up with your newsletters, and that's when I was actually camping with my family when I got the notice of this is your last chance to get into the course. And I just signed up instantly. I just kind of threw myself in it, and I was pretty happy that I did so in the end.
Great. So tell me, what did you what did you learn in the program?
Oh boy, that's a very big question, because I would sum it up with more about I learned about true healthy eating, only because there's so much information out there, and it's so confusing. Like simple, I'm sorry, my cat. actually, for example, I read this article on coffee, and that's a big thing for people. Is it good for you? Is it bad for you? And one article is about how it's so unhealthy, and the next is it's a super antioxidant. And I didn't know. So I feel like now that I've come to the end and I've really absorbed all of this information, I know if coffee is good for me or not.
And how do you know that?
Well, I get that good old burning sensation, so
Yeah.
which I'm familiar with. So
Yeah. So you learned about how to experience the coffee and how to articulate that experience, right? We all know that certain foods make us feel a little icky, or they make us feel good. But can you say how and why it makes you feel icky? What is that ickiness like? Usually it's just a vague feeling that people have. Well, Ayurveda helps you articulate that and interpret it so that you can easily navigate your way through food. It sounds to me like that's what the difference is. It's not that you have acquired knowledge about coffee from some book somewhere or another diet guru or ad that you saw somewhere trying to sell coffee, but that you learned about it through a personal experience, and so you can speak from that experiential point of view.
it makes you self-sufficient. It's you start to listen to your body, like you start to understand what your body is trying to tell you instead of what the article is telling you, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. And you have a way to verify the article. Is this happening to me? Does coffee do that to me? Is the antioxidant benefit of coffee going to outweigh the irritating effects of coffee in my digestion? Well, for some people, it will. But for other people, if they tend towards a little bit of irritation anyway, the coffee will aggravate that. And so the negative effects will prevail over the positive.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Great. Well, how has the course changed you? You've learned this information, but on a deeper level, what do you feel like you're a different person than you started before? Tell me on that level.
I do. I feel like I think differently. I approach food differently. It changes your perspective. Like you just you view it differently than what you used to. Like and also what the reaction that you get from your body. Like when you start to become comfortable and your body starts to level out and be calm, that speaks to you. It's like, wow, okay, I'm actually feeling like lifted. I feel good. I feel better than I have the last couple of years, only because of slight changes in the diet and lifestyle. It's definitely changed me, and it's also changed my family, whether they liked it or not, because you can't help but want to take care of the people that you love, and when you see and you recognize certain things and symptoms and such, you want to help them too. So it's changed the household.
Yes. Great. Great. It does. With Ayurveda, certainly you get a new perspective on food and a new perspective on listening to and interacting with your physical body. And that itself is such an opening, really, or opening of an opportunity, or it creates so much possibilities for the future and for health, for living well and having a better lifestyle. You said you think differently. What do you mean by that?
Well, I guess when if your body's tired and you're kind of worn out and you'd be like, gosh, I'm just craving a big old veggie burger with French fries. You think about it, my body actually, you become more in tune with yourself. And I realize that my body actually isn't craving. It just changes the way that you see things and how you want to feel too. Like you realize that you don't feel good. So once you learn how to feel good and once you're there, you don't, that I guess is what I mean by how it just changes you. It changes what you want and what you eat daily and how much water you drink daily, and you take care of yourself. You start to nurture yourself.
Yeah, before I studied Ayurveda, I wanted a different life than the life that I wanted now, and now I find a certain peace, comfort, and satisfaction that before my desires even were different, and those desires were working against my health instead of for it. So, um,
Yes.
so that is then a transformation that through understanding our body better, we refine our cravings, our desires, and our whole way of life, so that we're oriented towards something that works, just really
Hmm.
works all around, and you feel like you're in the zone when that happens. At least I do. I feel like, oh, this is just so great. You feel really uplifted in a way that
Sorry.
that when something special happens, and you know that the special thing that happened is something that you can depend on and rely on, and that's always going to be there for you. It's not just a fleeting, ephemeral experience, but something that you actually can accomplish over and over again. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
And also, just one other thing on that is it's also like you become a little more strategic on what you're going to eat instead of, you know, letting your mind control cravings. You're kind of like, well, what's happening, so you can actually plan your food better too, instead of just, what you're
Hmm.
feeling like on a whim here or a whim there. There's a more control in it, more,
Yeah.
yeah, just self
Yeah, that's because
understanding, I guess.
when you're ill, it's not only the illness that you're identifying, but what it means, right?
Yes.
And that's the difference in a Western context, which I always hate to say, okay, well, make these comparisons of like, oh, Ayurveda is great, Western is bad. No, no, I don't mean that at all. When I make this comparison, but in Western, you model things are in isolation. They're not part of a whole or part of a greater picture. But in Ayurveda, you can kind of tie things in together and see how all of our symptoms are interrelating. So when something happens, we know what it means, or we can talk about the implications of that from a whole body point of view, and that
Hmm.
allows us to create that strategy that you're talking about.
Yes. Yes, it's awesome. I
It
love
is
it.
awesome. It really
Yeah.
is. It really is. So, what are some of the healings that you experienced personally? You said that you kind of touched upon them a little bit, but maybe you could tell us again.
I would say the most outstanding one. I was like not I wasn't really in a lot of a body mess. I've always been kind of health orientated, but most definitely I suffered from acid reflux, like huge. And like you said before, like I knew sort of like what foods would bother it, but I didn't know how, and I didn't know why, like how to or to fix it basically. And it was uncomfortable. I would have a hard time laying down. I felt like I couldn't breathe. It was just uncomfortable being in my own body. And as I was working through this course, and as you know, we have, lectures on it and such, and it comes up repetitively. I feel like I'm way more in control of it now. I don't have those issues anymore, and that is like awesome, because it's terrible feeling so bad, you know, unnecessarily too. So
Yeah.
I would say that's the biggest healing I've had for sure.
Great. Well, now let's go to the other side of the spectrum. What was the greatest challenge that
Hmm.
you had in the course that you were?
I think I think you probably already know what it is. I would say for sure the thesis. I was very intimidated with it to begin with, and a little intimidated with it while I was doing it, only because I haven't written a paper in how long. Um, and but I still kind of pushed through it, and we had the help of the teachers, the guidance of them, and also how the beginning of the course you start on it, with your topic, and then by the end you're finally handing in your final draft of it, and so you have all this time in between with the guidance as well. And I just kind of persevered with it, although there was some hot moments. It wasn't always pretty, but in the end, when I handed it in with that last sentence done, and that last, the edit's done, man, what a feeling that is. Like, just big old pat on the back. It was like sheer joy, like, because you did it. It's like, I did it. I can't believe I did it. So
yeah, it's one thing to learn, and it's another thing to create, right? So closing that circle where we learn something, and we think, I mean, usually, it was like when I first graduated from college, I thought I knew everything. And then through actually doing life, I realized, maybe that's not true, right? And so the thesis is this great opportunity to realize, to see, like, oh, hey, wait a second, I didn't figure out these things yet, and I'm going to close the gap. I'm going to write the thesis. I'm going to finish it. It feels scary. Everybody, you're right that every single time, and any time I've ever asked this question, the answer is always the thesis. The thesis was the greatest challenge. And everybody always says what a sense of accomplishment in the end that it was, because you created it. You contributed to the field of Ayurveda through writing your thesis, and I'm sure you would echo this, that you really grew in your ability to practice and understand what all this means through working on that thesis. Is that true?
Absolutely, yeah. With mine in particular, no, it involved the pancreas, and to really, really dive in and like really get the details and how it works and how it functions and what it needs, and it's amazing. It really, by the time I was done, yes, I felt like a pancreas expert, but like you said, until you do life, you realize you're really not.
Well, no, I mean, part of your thesis is doing the life, right?
Yes.
I mean, the fact is that if you're just learning and taking a test at the end of it, then you're not doing it. But the thesis, that is doing it, right? And
that's
so
true.
It's a great opportunity. I would say that you probably do know a lot about the pancreas at this point, and then as you're just starting, right? You graduated from the program a month ago now.
Correct.
So as you now start to see or talk with clients about pancreatic issues. Of course, those street smarts will develop in addition now to the academic knowledge you have through your thesis.
Absolutely. It's already come up a few times, not personally, like speaking one-on-one, but I've heard people talking about the pancreatitis and such, and how they're struggling with certain things, and I just know, like, I understand, what's going on, and it's pretty cool. It's fantastic, actually. I love it.
Yeah, and now I have to read your paper because I also came to Ayurveda because of a digestive issue, and when I got my tests, my GI tests done, they said that my pancreas was a little bit weak and insufficient. So it sounds like it's time for me to dive into your thesis and take a look at it. So how do you plan to share what you've learned in the program?
Well, like I said before, I'm already sharing it. My mouth. I can't. It's one of those things that it is something that you live. It becomes like a lifestyle. So I'm naturally sharing it with my family, obviously, and my friends, and that is like kind of like the first step. It's actually great practice because they take it seriously, and so do I. So it gives me the chance to put that practice into play, and I learn a lot from it, just from that as well. So I think by sharing, I guess it would be just naturally, people seeking help and me wanting to help. So that's the first, I would say, first step in me sharing. But I will definitely, I'm furthering my own business and my own coaching as well. So eventually I will get a little more out there with it. But for now, I'm quite happy just working with the people around me right now. It's giving me a lot of information.
Yeah. Ayurveda is one of those things. It's like if you had a pair of sunglasses on your whole life and then suddenly you take it off and you realize that you're like seeing something clearly. It's like you can't stop doing it. Or
yes,
if you
totally.
or it's like this. If you learned once that sweaters keep you warm in winter, you just keep putting on sweaters every time it's cold. It's kind of like you can't stop doing Ayurveda. It's so simple and so basic. In fact, it's a very natural, easy thing to incorporate into just who you are.
Right, and you see it everywhere. Like
Yeah.
you see Ayurveda everywhere. Like when you speak about Vata, I can go to a grocery store and I can see exactly the Vata person, and I see what's in their shopping cart, and I'm like, wow, like it's everywhere. And yeah, I guess
Hmm.
it's great. It becomes part of your life for sure.
Yeah, yeah, and you start to see all these little sub body types, right? We have the three main body types, Vata, Pitta, Kapha, and then you start to see it's like, oh, that that Kapha Pitta person, it looks like a bit like in fact, I just thought of this the other day, so I'll use this example. I was watching that movie Mamma Mia with Meryl Streep in it,
Mhm.
and then I saw someone. I was walking down the road, and I was like, "Oh, that person's constitution is Kapha Pitta," and they kind of like seems like they almost have the exact same constitution as Meryl Streep, right? They
Mhm.
look kind of alike, but the features, and as you start to get more and more into Ayurveda, you see how they're the coloring in their face
Mhm.
and their the way their eyes are, the way their movements are and stuff, and you're seeing what that means for them health wise and for their whole constitution. And so you start to see five different kinds of Vata people, or 10 different kinds of Vata people, or 10 different
Mhm.
kinds of Kapha Pitta constitutions. And it makes people watching fascinating. I
It
was a people
does.
watcher before, but now I'm like really a people watcher.
I know, I know. I try not to be rude, but it's kind
Yeah,
of it's
yeah,
hard. Yeah, you see it everywhere. You do, and it's not necessarily negativity. Like you're
yeah.
not like, wow, that person is really a mess. But it's just the layout. Like
Yeah.
how you describe them. Like the Vada, she was really thin, and her hair was a little wiry and kind of out there, and her eye, like just everything about her, and she had a little bit of dryness around her lips, and I was like, wow, you recognize it,
Yeah.
and it's it's pretty cool.
Yep. Yep. So, then so you're thinking about starting or well, kind of furthering your own business. So you're already kind of in business. Do you have a website or something that for your
I'm actually
business
in the
or yeah?
I'm in the process of building my website. My business is Nature's Pantry Inc. But I am working on my website. I do want to get a little bit into blogging. And also posting recipes. I've been coming
Hmm.
up with like little weird things here and there, and I
Hmm.
love it. That part's fun, just kind of what we were talking
Hmm.
about earlier as well. And so I will have my website up and running probably within the next couple months.
Great, great. Well, if you do blogging, perhaps you'll do guest blogging. Being a recipe-oriented website, you may, um, maybe you can make some contributions to Joyful Belly as well.
Hmm.
And we'd certainly love that. We're always looking for recipe contributions.
Sure.
Yeah, and yeah, as I said, I came to it from a cooking background. I started as a cook and became an Ayurveda person. So, so
Well, that's
the
kind of what's
website reflects
happening
that.
to me too. So I get it for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, yeah. And then, what would you say overall in the end? We talked about some of the value you've got out of the program and how it's changed you. What do you think is the greatest benefit of the program?
Well, it's all gonna fall back onto that the the control that self-sufficient
Hmm.
kind of like I don't even know how to even really put it into words because I know it sounds like I'm repeating myself, but
Repetition is
really
great.
it really becomes you. So
Yeah.
I would say that the benefit is the change, the overall change, the
Hmm.
positive change that happens with it. And
Hmm.
it's not just about food, like it is about the cleansing aspects of it too, and the yoga aspects of it, which is cleansing too. I mean, it's the
Hmm.
whole picture is huge benefit.
Hmm.
And I don't know how to tell people enough. Like I'm like you just got to give it a try, and just give it a whirl and a chance, and
Hmm.
you will most likely see some big positive changes in your life. I mean, it's
Hmm.
really simple. It's a
Yeah.
simple thing in the end.
Yeah, what you said is that it's a new way of relating to the whole world. You talked about it's not just about food, but cleansing and yoga. It's a new way of relating to the whole world.
Yes.
And there's, of course, a person could, start a new faith practice or religious practice, and that's going to be a new way of relating to the world too. But that's not. But I'm not. But I don't think Ayurveda is really that kind of new way of relating to the world. It's a different way. It's a way that our body naturally relates to the things we find around us in our environment. It's not, of course, it affects our spirituality, and it informs perhaps our spirituality on some level. But by and large, it allows us to articulate, take something from our environment, articulate like am I interacting with this on a medicinal level? Mm-hmm. And that self-sufficiency comes from all the meaning that you can find through Ayurveda about that interaction. Mm-hmm. That's what makes it so self-sufficient and so fascinating, is that we might have a faith practice, and that teaches us how to relate perhaps to one another on a psychological level. But how do we relate to things around us medicinally? Ayurveda really answers that question in this very simple, easy way. That's radically different from Western, almost like Western civilization's approach to science in a way. So it is a fun and different new perspective, than the system that we've been following for a few hundred years in the West, and that is it's refreshing.
Right, absolutely. And I think it's also things that we take for granted because it's on a regular basis that we don't really, we're such a fast-paced society, and it's such a simple system that even like dealing with your sleep and the time of sleep that you fall, like the time that you fall asleep, and your practice before you go to sleep, and like these things that people don't really think about. They're like, what? I just crawl in bed, go on my computer, fall asleep, Mm-hmm. But it's actually, there's so much more to it when you dive into just even what time you go to bed at. I mean, it's new, but it's kind of everything we've been doing, but just not in balance, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, or bits and pieces here and there without being able to synthesize it and integrating it together. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, Michaela, is there any parting words that you'd like to offer? The people who are watching and listening to this interview, or people who are considering taking the program, or do I not take the program, or is this right for me, or whatever? Are there parting words of wisdom that you would like to offer after taking the course?
Well, first, I just want to say thank you, because it's really been an awesome journey so far. The journey will continue. And I do highly recommend this. I mean, even if you don't see yourself as a practitioner, or you don't want to move forward as a career choice, it is a lifestyle choice. Like, it's something for yourself and for your families. So it doesn't even necessarily need to be for a career. It's a lifestyle change, and I highly recommend it.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Well, thank you, Michaela, and I'm sure everyone listening appreciates it as well. I'd love to, again, hear about your creativity in the kitchen, as now you're through your profession, being a chef on a yacht. I'm sure you'll encounter all kinds of creative food ideas and devise some creative food ideas as well along the way. So keep in touch with us.
I will. Yes, I will.